Hey everybody. So happy to be recording again. Been away for quite a while. I want to speak to you about fear. I want to speak to you about transmuting fear and going beyond doubt and going beyond limitations. Such has been the theme for me over the past many weeks, going through the tail end of one of the most difficult processes of my life, which I'll share soon. But over this past while, I have been learning so much about the heart and about the body and about what it really takes to transmute really dense fields in the body. You know, those really deep traumas of ours that come up again and again and again. And sometimes you think you've been through it, you've moved through it, and then it just like creeps up from the bottom and drags you down right when you least expect it. All the voices of all the trauma you've ever been through, all the pain you've ever been through, not even your stuff, like even ancestral things. The voices of your grandfathers, your grandmothers, and their grandfathers and grandmothers. All these voices that say, you know what, you can't make it. You're not worthy. You're not good enough. Better stay small. Better hunker down. Just hide in shame or guilt or whatever. All trauma passes down generationally. So, like most of the things that you're dealing with in your life, it's not even yours. It's not even yours. It's stuff that's passed down cellularly, ancestrally into your body. And if you don't deal with it, you know, one of my favorite sayings that I've heard is like, do you want to deal with this, or would you rather that your daughter or your son deals with it? Because they will if you don't. It's how it works. So, like, whatever's presented for you in your life, in your body, whether it's depression, anxiety, fear, doubt, grief, guilt, pain, suffering, illness. The moment we embark on the real healing journey, which is taking ownership of this, moving beyond the victim place of like, why me? Why is this happening? To like, what if this is actually meant to be here? What if this is actually part of my process and part of me creating the destiny that I know I'm longing for, that I'm envisioning? Like, what if what I'm intending to have in my life actually brought this to me so I can transmute it, so I can move through it and become the type of person that will then create that? I never knew that in the past years ago. But I kind of started to catch on to it, the fact that like every single vision that you call forth, every single vision that you intend to manifest in your life, everything that you call in, you're also calling in the lessons that are mandatory, the things that you must learn in order to get that. It's not optional, it's mandatory, right? And the moment you kind of step out of that, snap out of that victim identity and just like embrace it and ask yourself, what is the gift here? What if this is part of the process? What is right about this that's part of my process? That if I like understood it and opened up and embraced to it, it would help me unfold into who I am here to be, what I'm here to do. So I've been learning a ton about that process because over almost 2 years ago, I started this dream called Sail the Stars. I'm wearing one of the Sail the Stars shirts right now. If you haven't heard about Sail the Stars, you can check out the link below. I'm launching a global sailing expedition and buying a sailboat, starting to sail around the ocean. And it's propelled me into depths of me that I didn't know existed. I didn't know there was so much fear, depression, anxiety, doubt, and shame in my body. I thought I had moved through this stuff, but it's kind of like it's easy to hide from yourself, you know, when you're not actually moving towards something. It's easy to, you know, to just sit in your little comfort zone when you're in your comfort zone. But as soon as you start moving and you're like, okay, let's create the abundance, let's create the whatever, let's actually move out of my comfort zone, let's go take care of my body, let's move towards my dream, my vision, my heart. We always wonder like, why does all this shit just blow up in your face? You know, the grief, the pain, the humiliation, the shame, I can't do it. It's precisely because of what I just mentioned, because that is actually what is calling forth the vision. It's saying, please see me, please heal me so I can leave this body, so I can be reclaimed. Because all these things, anxiety, doubt, shame, depression, anxiety, how do you mention fear, all the little spectrums of it, they're not you. They're just parts of you that are waiting to be reclaimed, waiting to be felt through. But we kind of tend to move and push them away as if they're not here to be looked at. They're not here to be seen. They're not here. They're not supposed to be here, right? And the minute we start to feel these things, like, oh, there's the shame again. Oh, there's the fear again. Oh no, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? How do I move through it? And in the past, what's worked for us very much is either ignoring it, like numbing away from it, or like battling with it, trying to just overcome it. Like, even though I feel this way, I'm just gonna do it right anyway. That's what a lot of like the '90s self-help movement is about. Just like push through fear, feel the fear, and do it anyway. And I'm not saying that's not a part of it, because it is, but ultimately it doesn't actually get transmuted out of the body. It doesn't actually leave. So it keeps coming up, keeps coming up, keeps coming up. It's kind of like if a little child comes to you and they're afraid of a monster out of bed. You're like, well, just go to sleep anyway. Just feel the fear and go to sleep. And it's like, yeah, you might go to sleep. They're terrified, move through it. Oh, let's look under the bed. Look, there is no monster. And you feel that like temporary relief. Oh, yeah, there isn't really a monster there. But the monster was never really under the bed. It was in here, right? So it's like dealing with that felt sense that there is something here that I don't want to see, I don't want to feel. It's going to manifest one way or another as a monster under the bed. If it's not dealt there, then later on in your adult life, a real monster will come and terrify you. It could be, like the loss of a relationship. It could be some frightful thing that happens to you. It could be losing everything that you have. It could just be anxiety, stress, or illness. The monster is going to show up until you look at it straight in the face. And so as I'm moving through my life and doing this practice of just feeling everything with this body, giving it my love and my attention, my forgiveness, saying thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up in my body so I can give it the love it requires. That's the basics of it. What I'm finding is that there's more and more light in the body. There's more and more light in the body, and that stuff just shifts and dissolves. And every single time it dissolves, it's kind of like you reclaim a part of yourself because you're not busy repressing that. Your body isn't. So there's more energy for you. There's more light to shine through you. And so you look at the world very, very differently. And right now, with everything that's happening in the world, it's like we have no choice but to look at the fear. It's like nobody can hide from it anymore. I mean, I called my 80-year-old grandfather yesterday, and I was just really happy because I wanted to connect to him and talk about something. And he asked me, "So what are you up to?" I'm like, "Well, we're saving up money for the boat, and we're about to go sailing around the world, and it's going to be great." And it's funny his response, the generational trauma, like, "Yeah, but we might have nuclear warfare anytime soon. So you better be careful because when that bomb really hits, then you're never going to, they might, I'm like, well, Dad, I'm not sailing to Ukraine. I mean, Grandpa. And he's like, yeah, but then they might quarantine the oceans and you might not be able to go there and here. Just like, loving him, loving him, loving him in the moment. And I'm not saying ignore what's happening in the world, but with everything that's happening right now, you get to have the opportunity to meet it here in your body, to meet what it brings up for you. What does everything bring up for you? Because there's two versions of the world. There's the version actually out there as it's happening, right? And there's the version of like what it brings up in you. And most of the time when we talk about the world, politics, what's going to happen, what could happen, what isn't happening, what we think about the world or other people, we're not actually talking about that world. We're talking about the world inside here, all the little pockets of us, like that Putin. It's like you're not actually talking about Putin out there. It's, you know, in here. Like what that image or idea or notion brings up in you is like, that Putin, that contraction. And then you like build a story about that contraction that you're having in your body, which actually isn't Putin, but probably some version of your dad or some father figure that you never forgave or have some opinion about, and it actually is causing that in your body. If you were able to actually see reality truly objectively, it would be very, very different than like, or excited, like yes or no. It would be quite neutral because you actually have no idea what's going on out there. You have no actual idea beyond what you read or what you hear or what you see in a video and people's interpretations of reality. So, this opportunity right now that I'm so excited about on the planet is about us transmuting fear on a level bigger than we ever have. And it's what has been coming up for me through my process. And what I'm finding is that beyond fear, there is this neutrality with life and this real abundance that springs forth naturally from your body. A lot of people, and we're very worried about, right, what's going to happen right now with inflation, with the potential apocalypse, with whatever, right? Like the old world is melting and falling apart, the 3D world, right? But as it's melting, we're getting the opportunity to see through every single notion, every single little misperception inside of us. And those of us who are lucky enough to start this process earlier than others, we get to see a very, very different side of ourselves and of reality that is beyond fear. Like, what happens when you act instead of out of fear right now, but actually face the emptiness and the unknown and the uncertain, and not even do anything about it? Like, okay, maybe a nuclear bomb would fall. What is it? Okay, do I have to even think about it right now? Let's just be here right now. Let's really sizzle in the fear of that. Okay, woo, right? Because otherwise it's like, oh my God, nuclear warfare. What do I do? Should I get a tinfoil hat? Should I get iodine? Look at that insanity and where it like drove people back in the 60s, like building bunkers. Like, do you actually even want to be in a bunker? Like, why not just incinerate? And maybe that would be better. Um, what happens when you just stay in the uncertainty instead of acting out of that like contraction of like, ugh, I feel like lack. And so I'm going to go and react to this lack in my body and hope that I won't feel this lack. But the monster under the bed is still there, right? It's just the same thing like looking under the bed for the monster. It's actually in your body. The lack, the fear, the uncertainty, it's in your body. And when you just stay with those feelings, a miraculous things happens. Your body actually knows how to transmute those energies. It knows what to do. If you have the courage to meet the fear that's arising right now and just sit with it. Okay. The end of the world is happening, tons of uncertainty, food prices are going up, energy prices are going up. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And just sit there and breathe the fear. Hello, fear. Welcome. You're so welcome here in my body. You're so welcome. I'm so here for you. So here for you. Tell me more. What you're going to find is your body relaxes as you breathe through it. And all of a sudden, the thing doesn't trigger you anymore. And if you stay in that space of emptiness and the unknown, your body just naturally knows what to do. Like it'll just come to you like, oh, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to go over there and take care of this now. And it starts to move very spontaneously. And this is an entirely different operating system than what we're used to in the past, which is why this process is so confusing. For so many of us, it's like some of us like, no, we should be doing something right now, different, preparing, changing. The world is changing, but like, what do I do? What about my job? Like, does any of this matter anymore? Like, what is the authentic me? How do I, create a new life in this reality? Does that even matter? Do I need to be afraid? But it's kind of scary, but it's not. It's very, very confusing because an entirely different operating system is birthing, one where fear is no longer God, where you get to actually move from your authenticity and live a true, brave, courageous life, spontaneously moving and allowing the world to be built, the new world to be built through you, not by you doing it, trying to figure it out up here, but actually listening to something bigger than you and allowing that to move through you. Call it whatever you want. But this is the somatic, physical experience of that. I know you've experienced that in your life. If you doubt it for a moment, just think about it. Did you pee or poo today? That probably went pretty well, right? You didn't have to do much about it. It just happened, right? So your body's already doing that in one way, right? It's already blinking. It knows how to like do certain autonomic things for you without you doing anything. And the same is true for the rest of your life, for your health, for your wellness, for your abundance, for how you show up in the world, and what's going to carry you through this time of change. So I'm not saying, don't think about what's going on and don't like make sensible choices. But ultimately, none of that is going to prepare us for what's happening right now. The best thing you can do is to tune into this and allow this process to take over, transmute fear as it comes, and allow things to move through you. And it'll be incredible. What starts to come through you, what you start to create. If you think back through your life, anything beautiful you've ever created, anything beautiful that you've just like enjoyed, where you're like, wow, this is the best day of my life. This is so cool. Right? I'm so glad, like, wow, this is an amazing creation. Whether it was, something simple like writing a song or a poem or something you're really proud of, a book, or, just a conversation with a friend, or making love, or, meeting the love of your life. It always just happened naturally from that spontaneity, right? And so, what if life could be like that all the time? And I'm telling you, this is entirely possible. Yes. And this is what's coming for all of us as the insanity world amplifies and we are met with the fear. Knowingly or unknowingly, this is the process that's taking place. It's a global transmutation of fear and doubt. And I know this may sound like very fluffy, but I assure you, it's entirely practical. It boils down. Just try this, and you'll see. You'll see what I mean. It takes courage. It takes courage and being brave in the moment, because we're habitually wired up to be like, fear, oh no, and I'm going to act. But every single time you act with that fear or that lack, you just create more of it. Every single action you take that's motivated by, oh, I'm feeling lack or I'm feeling fear. What do I do about this? Just creates more lack. It's the same energy, just replicating itself. Beyond this place of doubt and fear, beyond this great big sea of fear and doubt that has been in our world for so long, I have felt this beautiful world coming. Perhaps you've seen it or felt it too. A world where we're working together, where it's just epic. It's an entirely different form of mankind. It's coming, and I see it and I feel it, and I used to fantasize about it and visualize it in my life, talk about it, the new earth. Maybe you've heard it a lot, but I used to talk about it and feel it in the way of like, oh, this thing is coming. But these days I'm tuning into that and realizing, yes, and we have we get to create it. We get to be the vessels that create it. All right. And this is the process. And the way it's created is through tuning into the heart, tuning into this vision. Right. And whether it's something small, like tuning into the heart and just going out for a walk, because you know what? That's just what is uplifting and expansive today. Instead of listening to the fear and like, oh no, I'm afraid. I got to find out what else is going to happen. I better read all the news and look at all the stuff. It's like, okay, that's happening. And let's breathe that. And what else is here? What else is possible outside of this? When I come into my center, what can I create today? Okay. If the world is really indeed falling apart, let's let it fall apart in here and then act from whatever remains inside of us. So it actually has to be created through us, right? We don't get to just stand by and watch and do nothing. I mean, even doing that, you're playing your part in it. But instead of sitting there and hunkering down in fear, what if, what if something entirely new is coming for you through this collapse through whatever's collapsing in your life right now, personally, through whatever you're watching collapsing outside in the world. And what if that is going to be better than anything that we could ever imagine? Yeah.